I'd just like to say thank you for coming along to the networking, barbecue and drinks for the NMI Conference. And there's just a few thank yous. I would like to thank EMS, Particle Solutions, and Zeiss for sponsoring the drinks and the barbecue. I'd like to say thank you to Pragmatic for all the help and support they've given in organising the conference with me. I'd like to say a big thank you to Thermco Systems, who are the main sponsor for the event tomorrow. And I'd like to say thank you to all my staff who've helped put this on, and the exhibitors. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Now, there is a lot going on in the semiconductor industry, as we all know, and there has been a recent call for evidence. If you've not submitted your evidence, I'd advise you to go and read what has been submitted to see what your industry is actually saying and what we are looking to do moving forward. I'm delighted to say that Paul Hill's here, who's the MP for the North East, and Paul's going to say a few words in a minute. Paul has been active in the recent call for evidence. I'm also delighted to say that NAME are here, and I keep on getting the name wrong, so North East Advanced Materials Electronics Group, which is the North East cluster for everything that's not silicon, as they'll tell you later on. They're going to say a few words, and it is their official opening of NAME here tonight. So I'm delighted to be welcoming them here and working with them going forward. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. I'm going to pass you over to Paul, who's going to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Jolene. Where do you start? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us tonight for the opening of the National Microelectronics Institute Conference. It's been a long time in the making, and I know expectations are high. I first encountered NMI through NetPark and Elaine Scott, Business Durham, and Gillian's invited me along to the stakeholder networking as the MP for Sedgefield, which is about 5 miles that way. Sedgefield, as many of you know, is of course the home of NetPark, which is a core part of the North East technology offer. And I also have a background myself in the manufacturing industry, and you said I was involved in the call for evidence. It's me the calls for evidence is coming to. I'm one of the team. I'm one of the of the business select committee who are taking the evidence call. In this committee, it's in the middle of an inquiry into the whole UK semiconductor industry, and we're trying to highlight the importance of manufacturing in the UK, in particularly the semiconductor market. I'm delighted to welcome you here to the County of Durham. It's a fabulous place to invest. And as you can see from the attendees here tonight that have already done so. But you need to be aware of the broader support around us, like the fantastic universities, the cultural offer. You know, we've not only got Durham University, we've got Northumbria, we've got Newcastle, we've got Sunderland, we've got Teesside, and they all do different things that can support the industries around here. And anyone who wants to understand how great a place it is to live, well, they've only got to look at the stuff that County Durham put out in its bid for the County of Culture. It was absolutely fantastic. But anyway, a 25-year anniversary is notable for any organisation, but given the past couple of years and continuing pressures on the industry, I feel it's especially important we can celebrate this milestone for the NMI. My own history in manufacturing included a spell working at Livingston in Silicon Glen, but that was in the 1980s. The industry was ever so slightly different there. You know, we did through-hole plating onto circuit boards. It was a bit different, acid baths and things like that. I think things have moved on ever so slightly. Every time I go around NetPark, it just scares me how much it's moved on and how old I must be. But for over a quarter of a century, NMI has been supporting the UK semiconductor industry through design, manufacturing, supplier communities, adding value through collaboration, networking, knowledge sharing. It's one of the longest standing trade associations for the industry and continues to grow in numbers. It's safe to say that without them, the semiconductor industry in the North East would look significantly different to what we see today. And despite the obvious challenges, I'm excited by the progress that's been made, and I look forward to what lies ahead. Given my background in industry as both a local MP and a member of the Select Committee, I've been following the semiconductor industry closely and raising its profile at every opportunity. I've already been able to bring a number of ministers to NetPark over the past year. I've had the Business Secretary of State, Kwasi Kwarteng. I've had the Science Minister, George Freeman. I've had Liz Truss when she was Secretary of State for International Trade. And her colleagues, Ranil, I can never pronounce his name, Jawaharlal and Lee Rowley. And I mentioned it numerous times in the House. It's about shouting up for the business that we're in. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to your business, but I'll shout about it a lot if I can. It's great to see so many of you here tonight supporting the work that NMI is doing and supporting the industry, and I'm sure Gillian will be happy to speak to you later about the benefits of being a member and bring your credit card. Yeah. Although I represent the North East and some of the companies here tonight, such as Pragmatic, 26, Photronics and NTG are NMI members, I'm aware of the importance of the UK industry as a whole, and the cluster forming in the North East is one part of the developing ecosystem that we've got. It's important that we all work together throughout the UK to develop collaborative rather than competitive clusters and maintain our competitive advantage in the global landscape that is semiconductors. That brings me to the other reason I'm here this evening, which is to launch the North East Advanced Material Electronics, known as NEAM. I think that's the correct pronunciation. NEAM is a cluster of semiconductor and advanced material electronic companies in the sector here in the North East and based mainly at Net Park. And since being elected, I've got to know them well. I'm learning about the challenges and opportunities they face, and it's given me important background information for this select committee semiconductor inquiry, where we're looking at supply chains, we looked at government communication, we're looking at manufacturing. So please, if you haven't already input to it, be delighted to hear it, and feel free to talk to me later tonight as well. I'm pleased to say that there's a number of companies here that have already made formal submissions, making sure your voices are heard. And I'm delighted that as a result of this thing that's going on, I've been able to encourage the select committee who are actually going to come to the North East for a visit in September. So they're actually coming, instead of them just going to the Catapult in South Wales, good as that is and important as that is, I've got them to come out here. So on the first week back in my new term, that we've got them coming here on the Thursday and Friday. So we can build on the knowledge they got from the Catapult. It's important to see companies around the UK and understand the different parts of this. NEAM's got a range of highly specialised companies producing exciting, disruptive technologies, and we need to continue to broadcast this. When people think of British semiconductors, places like South Wales or Cambridge may come to mind, but I hope that will change. I hope the creation of NEAM is a great example of a business-led cluster to showcase our region's capability, which goes beyond conventional and high-value compound semiconductors. It gives me great pleasure to launch the group at a national NMI event on almost home ground for me. Could have been 5 miles that way. This charter, which I did have a minute ago, symbolises the commitment of the companies here to work together with others to maximise the potential of the cluster. And I'll now hand over to Richard Gibbs.
Thanks very much for that. For those of you that don't know, I am part of that 25-year journey. I worked for the NMI for a year. So I take my hats off to the job that has been done tonight, because let me tell you, it's a lot of work herding cats. So thank you very much for organising a great event, Gillian and the team. Great location. I understand that I am standing between all of you and the bar and the food, so I will keep this very short. What is NEAM? North East Company, cluster. We're all about what is not silicon. We're not necessarily compound semiconductors. Compound semiconductors is a subdivision of what we do, but it's about collaborative networking in the North East. What are we trying to do? We're trying to rebuild the talent stream that was in place in the 80s and 90s that has been lost. We're working with local universities and colleges in the North East. We're working actively with Business Durham to also influence what is the curriculum within these organisations. We have a great college called New College Durham, which does specific modules. So they've done an EV training module for Nissan, but it's not restricted to Nissan employees. So anyone can come along and become an EV mechanic. We're working to generate a semiconductor module that graduates can go on. We can also put our existing employees who have maybe come out of the PhD stream and don't have such a hands-on theme to their education. Within the North East, we're in the process of creating more than 4,500 jobs in the zone of technology. It's all started at Net Park, but it's much bigger than that. There's companies in Peterlee, just out Sunderland as well, that are all tech companies, not necessarily semiconductor, but doing high-tech, high-value added things. Oh, crowd's getting rowdy. We're wanting to engage more than just the tech companies, so this is a perfect location for bringing to the table suppliers, equipment suppliers, material suppliers, customer support, all the infrastructure that's required to create a technology environment. So a lot of the folk in this room I've worked with, they're all kind of over this way, it seems. There's other folk that we're starting to work with who are up the back, Rico, and there's folk that we haven't worked with yet. So be aware that there are tens of companies working in technology in the Northeast, and we need the support of the OEMs and the suppliers to go big, and boy, do we intend to go big. Let me tell you, Pragmatic, we're building the first 300mm wafer fab in the UK. We're doing it in 9 months. It was supposed to be 6 months, but supplier deliveries have delayed that. That's compared to 3 years for a silicon fab. So we're changing the world, and we're changing it in the Northeast, and this cluster is all designed to enable that. So please go grab a beer and go network. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Jerry's going to come up and say a couple of words and invite the two sponsors up on stage to say thank you.
Well, thanks, Gillian. I think we can all agree that it's been a fantastic lot of concentration, a lot of work behind the scenes, working with the Northeast Development, working with Ken and the rest of the organisations. And as being one of the sponsors, it's been a great privilege. And it's been a great privilege in two reasons. One is that, first of all, it's supporting the NMI, which I do together with Alan, John, and the rest of the team. But I also, actually from the Northeast, myself, and if we talk about the supply chain, I think a good example of the supply chain is myself, but I think it's more cradle to grave. And so much as that I was actually born here in the Northeast, about 8 miles down the road. My family is about 2 miles down the road. And when you consider it, I've been in this sector for the last 55 years. And so I've been across the world. I've worked with TI. I was in the semiconductor sector in the 70s. When we had TI, we had Motorola and National, all of the organized, Plessy, we had many, many companies here. And when we've seen them all go away because of mainly the cost of resources in the Far East, and what we're seeing now, geopolitically, the labor cost is no longer a challenge. It's about technology, about capability, it's about determination. And certainly here is the Northeast, we've got it. And I remember I started down the road doing medical electronics. I went to Texas Instruments in the semiconductor sector in the 76s. So I saw a lot of industry. I've been right across the world. I've been in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Germany, USA. And it's good to see that, you know, the passion that we've got here in the Northeast. And I think I've seen it, you know, over the last few years. And I think certainly from what Ken and the rest of the team have done. And I think, you know, I like to think we say bring back better. And I'd like to think that, speaking on behalf of the Northeast here, is I'd like to see that we can bring back better. And so I wish you best wishes in your new project. And with Ken and the rest of you guys at NEAM, certainly for myself, who's a manufacturing company, would certainly like to see you succeed and certainly will support you. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Vino Naidu. I'm the Business Development Manager for Zeiss, representing the electronics industry in the UK and Ireland. But before I tell you a little bit about Zeiss, I think I want to say thank you to the NMI for giving us the opportunity to sponsor this evening's event. Great location, great weather. What could go wrong? Do I even want to say that? A little bit about Zeiss. So Zeiss is an international optics and optoelectronics company. We are a €7 billion company based out of Germany, headquartered out of Oberkochen. And a couple of our business groups would be the Semiconductor Manufacturing Technology Division, where one of my colleagues is actually here tomorrow and giving a talk about the optics we supply to ASML in their lithography systems. The other division is medical, and then we've got consumer optics, as well as research microscopy solutions, or industrial quality solutions. So I work for the research microscopy division, and we supply solutions into semiconductor fabs, into academia for failure analysis. And we'd very much like to talk to you if you're looking for equipment, of course. But yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you. So just to introduce myself, Andy Wersick from EMS Particle Solutions. We're a distributor for an American company, Particle Measuring Systems, who have got a lot of global experience in contamination control measuring equipment. We've got the elevator pitch tomorrow, so I'm not going to steal my colleagues' thunder and say too much now. But again, thanks to the NMI for inviting us to sponsor the event and get the beers in. Thank you.